This is a kickoff for what I think will be a very exciting and informative season for the Consciousness Study program at UNLV. Before I introduce tonight's speaker, I would like to acknowledge Bob and Diane Bigelow, whose financial support has made it possible for UNLV to bring experts such as Dr. Moody to the university to create intellectually challenging academic programs, as well as community outreach opportunities such as tonight's presentation. Now, in terms of introducing tonight's speaker, when I usually prepare to introduce someone for a science seminar, I go to their curriculum vitae, their resume, and look at their educational background, their academic honors, their publication records, and so forth. Well, when I started doing that with Ray Moody, I noticed, first of all, he has impressive credentials in all those areas, but I am most impressed with all he has done with his life far beyond the traditional academic accolades. He is truly a Renaissance person. Dr. Moody has the highest academic credentials. He has a PhD in philosophy from the University of Virginia. He has also a MD from the Medical College of Georgia. He has published in numerous academic and professional journals. He has taught at the University of Virginia, at East Carolina University, and West Georgia College. But Dr. Moody has not just spent his professional career in academia. He also has served as staff forensic psychiatrist for the state of Georgia. He is also a best-selling author. He has sold over 20 million books. And one book alone, his first publication, Life After Life, he has sold over 10 million copies. Now, this book has won awards. He won the World Humanitarian Award for that book, and when it was made into a film, he won a medal at the New York Film Festival for that book. When you introduce someone, you seldom get to use definitive words, but I think I can say without too much concern that Dr. Moody is the world's leading authority on near-death experiences. As a matter of fact, he coined the term. And I think almost everybody has heard the term and knows quite a bit about what that means. So you can see he has really impacted on society just doing his research. He has also created the John D. Memorial Theater of the Mind, which is a facility dedicated to consciousness studies and grief therapy. Dr. Moody is a compelling lecturer on a whole variety of topics in consciousness studies, and he's appeared on numerous national TV shows. I would say most of the talk and news programs. Not many academicians, and I would say not many people in general, can say they've appeared on Oprah 3 times. But beyond the field of consciousness, Ray Moody is truly, as I said, a Renaissance man. He has an amazing knowledge in diverse fields, from medical and psychology-related fields to philosophy, to history, to humor and performing arts. Furthermore, he is has an insatiable curiosity that leads to a lifelong learning philosophy, which is contagious, both to his students, to his friends, and to his colleagues. Thus, I'm very happy to present a world-renowned expert in consciousness studies, an esteemed academician, a philosopher, a healer, a best-selling author, an engaging lecturer and teacher, a student of life, and I might add, a delightful person, Dr. Raymond Moody.
Wonderful community this year. My wife and Cheryl and I just love it here. And one thing we've observed already is it sure is different from Chocolate, Alabama. Great. Country town. It's wonderful. And I also want to begin here by saying this, which is so heartfelt and sincere. UNLV is so courageous for doing a program like this, and I want to thank everybody at UNLV for the courage that they have shown in going out front and looking into these areas, because it's been my personal experience. There is a lot of charlatanism and sensationalism and so on in that field. There really is. And so, and at the same time, I think that obscures some of the genuinely rational work that is done in this kind of field. So, thanks to UNLV, really, from the bottom of my heart. And also, I want to add my personal thanks to Diane and Robert Bigelow, who have funded this program and enabling scholars to come here over the coming years to talk with you about some of these things. Primarily tonight, what I want to talk with you about is the work that I've done over a 33-year period now in having interviewed literally thousands of people who have come to the verge of death and had extraordinary experiences that changed their lives very dramatically, and have come back to share this with me. It's made a very big impact on my life. Another thing I'd like to say here in the beginning is this, that I understand that justifiably there has been concern among some people in the community about bringing some of these things here. And I already said that I understand why that is, because there is sensationalism associated with this. And I would like to say in that regard that I have always insisted in talking about my work that I think it's very important that people realize that as dramatic as these experiences are, as powerfully as they touch us all, and the fact that they go to the heart of fundamental human concerns, that we have to be very careful when we're assessing what these experiences mean, that we don't stumble into this mistake of saying that this is, quote, scientific evidence of a life after death, unquote. And the reason for that is that having background in science myself, and if I could explain this briefly, it's hard enough really to prove anything in science. And scientists often are justifiably worried when they hear people making exorbitant or sensational claims about scientific evidence and that sort of thing. So what I'm getting at here is that when you hear these claims that this is somehow scientifically going to show us that there's a life after death, what I could say as a student of philosophy and a person very interested in methodology, always red flags should go up at that point, because it's not as simple as those sensational claims make it seem. At the same time, the fact is this issue of a life after death and survival of bodily death is pushing itself forward in our society in a very dramatic way for two reasons primarily, I think. One is that the baby boomers are now, we're reaching out the age in our lives where it's getting increasingly common for us to lose loved ones. Most of us in my generation really got through life up to this point without suffering major losses. Of course, your grandparents die. That sort of comes with the deal. You know, they're elderly when you meet them. But of course, that's in the cards, right? But your parents are young people, and you remember them when they're young, and so something different starts happening to your psyche when you reach that point where your parents start dying. And to illustrate how this goes, in a 3-year period, I lost both of my parents, and in a year period during that time, 2 of my good friends lost both of their parents a few months apart, people my age. And my wife Cheryl and I have lost 6 people in our family over a 6-year period, including Vi, our friend, who's like an aunt to me. And what I'm getting at here is not being autobiographical, but I suspect I'm pretty average. I mean, I think that when we reach this point in life, that begins to happen. And when that does, it really brings your attention to your own mortality in a very dramatic way. People want to know, well, what happened to my loved ones and so on. I'm one of those who lost a child. In 1970, I lost my first child. I know that doubtless there are people here who have been through that sort of thing, and I know from my own personal struggle with that, that's something that never really, you never really get over. And when those kinds of things happen, the thoughts naturally turn to these issues of life after death, which have been there in the philosophical tradition of the West from the very beginning. And over the last 33 years, as I mentioned, I've had this wonderful opportunity to talk with thousands of these people who have been to the brink of death and have had personal experiences which assure them, anyway, that what we call death is a transition into some other kind of reality. And I think that unless you've been hiding out in the hills for the last 20 years, that we all know about this scenario, more or less. But to review it, physicians now all over the world, I have physicians physician colleagues and psychologist colleagues on every continent except for Antarctica, who have investigated these experiences in their own societies, and we know that there does seem to be this common pattern of experience that unfolds with people when they are on the verge of death. One thing they commonly tell us is that at this point where their heart stops beating, they say that from their perspective, they suddenly seem to leave their physical bodies and they drift up and they watch as down below they can see the resuscitation going on. They can hear in quotation marks what the doctors and nurses are saying. They say that it's not really an auditory sensation, but as one nurse who had this experience told me, that she became aware of what the doctor was about to say the moment before she would see his mouth open to say the words. And in this situation, though they are acutely aware and can perceive the events of the resuscitation going down below as they watch this, they say that no one seems to be able to see them or to hear them. If they try to ask the doctor, how can it be that I'm out of my body watching myself from up here, no one seems to be able to hear them or to respond to them. After a while in this, they say that they become aware that, oh yeah, this is something to do with dying or the death process. And at that point, they begin to experience transcendental aspects of these experiences, if I can call it that. And I should remark at this point that maybe the most common thing I hear from people who have been through this experience is, in one way or another, they will say this, that there are no words for this. No matter how articulate the people, and I have talked to people from all over the world, who say the same thing, that there just aren't any words really to describe what happens to them at this point.